Back in the day, we used to post-process our photographs with single apps such as Lightroom and Capture One. Over time, however, specialized tools were released which dealt with specific issues such as high ISO noise, blurred or out of focus shots, and small image sizes. These apps, such as the Topaz Labs AI suite, made up for the limitations in apps such as Adobe Lightroom at that time. And while the French company DxO were taking on Capture One and Lightroom directly with their impressive PhotoLab app, they also targeted the pre-processing niche with their PureRAW app. Pre-processing is when you make baseline corrections to a RAW file and then output in a lossless file format such as DNG or TIFF. I reviewed PureRAW 3 last year and thought it was a brilliant pre-processing tool, perfect for initial lens corrections and noise removal prior to post-processing. DxO have now rolled out PureRAW 4, and I've been putting it through its paces. The question we need to answer is, have the other apps caught up with PureRAW? Or is it still the best way to get your photographs ready for post-processing? And to cut straight to the chase, I can reveal that while other apps, specifically Adobe Lightroom, have caught up with DxO, PureRAW still has the edge thanks to a new denoising algorithm. While the apps obviously fulfill very different roles in a digital photographer's post-processing software library, Lightroom Classic's demosaicing engine and denoising capabilities are extremely close to DxO's now. I'll get to the various use cases and the results of my testing shortly, but first let's talk about what's new in PureRAW 4. The big ticket item is a brand new denoising and demosaicing model called Deep Prime XD2. This is obviously a revision to the original Deep Prime XD model which DxO released with PureRAW 3. I found that the original XD models could be too aggressive with their processing, and so I was interested to see if this had been addressed in version 2. DxO have also further leveraged the lens data library they built up when creating DxO Mark with an improved lens sharpness algorithm. Other new features include a real-time preview, similar to the one you'll find in Topaz Lab software, advanced battery naming, and a new widget that can monitor for SD cards or external drives, and automatically ingest and process RAW files. For the purposes of this here video, DxO supplied me with a time-limited gold release candidate, which they were happy for me to review. Given how good PureRAW 3 was, I was happy to put it through its paces. The good news is that DxO have markedly improved the utility of PureRAW with the addition of much needed new features such as the aforementioned live preview. Experimenting with settings is a core part of the editing process, and being able to quickly and simply view the impact of changes to those settings is, in my humble view, an essential feature. You've been able to do this in pretty much all other pre-processing tools for some time now, and it's great to see that DxO have seen fit to include it in PureRAW 4. I also like the new widget that monitors your external media for RAW files, and if I had a purely DxO-based post-processing workflow, I'd definitely use it. PureRAW 4 is a fast pre-processor. In my testing, it fully processed and saved images in an average of 8.8 seconds. By contrast, Lightroom Classic took 24 seconds to run its enhanced tool and save out a DNG, while PhotoMayor took 7.2 seconds to denoise and save. Topaz Labs Photo AI 2.3 took 28 seconds per image to run a full autopilot scan and tweak. You can run PureRAW as a plugin from Lightroom or Photoshop, as a standalone app, or integrate it at an OS level into the macOS Finder and Windows Explorer. This is actually a wise decision on DxO's part, because I often use Lightroom to process images simply because it was good enough. Making pre-processing as frictionless as possible makes it much more likely that you'll choose to make it a permanent part of your processing workflow. The only way to test software like this is to have at least 2 points of reference, the original photo and a photo processed in a different app. And so I tested PureRAW 4 by referring back to the original photo and the same shots processed in 3 reference apps: Lightroom, Topaz Photo AI, and Photomator. In my testing, I found the margins between PureRAW and other AI-based denoising and demosaicing tools to be smaller than in previous tests, but thanks to this new algorithm, it still came out ahead. When I was picking my test images, I was disappointed to find that the new XD2 algorithm does not work with Fuji X-Trans files, and that since the main new feature of PureRAW 4 is that new XD2 algorithm, I therefore restricted myself to Canon RAWs shot mainly on my old 7D Mark II. Hopefully, DxO will quickly upgrade the algorithm to work with X-Trans RAWs with an upgrade as they did with PureRAW 3. In testing, the live preview feature proved extremely useful for seeing the impact of the configuration sliders on photos. Rather than having to repeatedly save out files, I could simply change the sliders, zoom in and view the results on screen before outputting my reference edits. As far as I'm concerned, the big competition for PureRAW comes from Adobe and the AI-based enhanced tool found in Lightroom, and this was my main point of comparison. Over the last 18 months, Lightroom's capabilities have continued to improve to the point where the differences between the two were marginal at best. I'm not just talking about denoising here, incidentally, but the whole basket of pre-processing functions, lens corrections, vignette fixes, demosaicing, and color rendition too. My initial tests showed that photos pre-processed using PureRAW 4's demosaicing, lens corrections, and that new XD2 algorithm were superior to images processed in Lightroom using the enhanced tool at its default settings. The PureRAW 4 images showed slightly less noise and better detail retention. In order to ensure I was being fair, I then reprocessed the original RAW shots in Lightroom using a more aggressive denoise setting, 75 this time instead of the default 50. At that setting, this indeed resulted in denoising that was every bit as good as PureRAW 4's, but on close examination, I realized that this was at the cost of some detail. So with Lightroom, you can have A-grade denoising and B-grade detail retention, or B-grade denoising and A-grade detail retention, but you can't have A-grade for both. As I mentioned, I also passed my test photos through both Topaz Labs Photo AI and Photomator. I was particularly interested in seeing how Topaz Labs all-in-one Photo AI fared in comparison to PureRAW because it's recently got a big upgrade. Unfortunately, Photo AI's results weren't great. In fact, based on the test photos I processed in all of the apps, it was consistently the weakest of the 4. Meanwhile, Photomator's denoising was easily as good, possibly even better than Lightroom, and really not very far behind PureRAW 4. Unfortunately though, Photomator was let down by poor detail retention. If the Pixelmator team can fix this in a future upgrade, they'll have a formidable tool on their hands. During my testing, I tried various combinations of detail retention using PureRAW 4's Force Detail Slider. I found that a setting of between 10 and 20 provided the best bang for the buck on my landscape photos. I also found that the PureRAW 4 conversions had slightly better color balancing than Lightroom. In particular, Lightroom pushed saturation a bit too far in its default demosaicing, and photos sometimes had a slight purple hue to them, while PureRAW 4's colors were more pure, even with identical white balance settings. As I see it, there are 2 ways you can go in terms of post-processing your raw photos. Firstly, you can opt for the all-in-one app such as Lightroom, Capture One and Photolab, and let that be the beginning and end of your post-processing software. Or secondly, you can use specialized pre- and post-processing apps with a RAW editor and then use a separate asset manager of some kind. For instance, you could use PureRAW 4 to ingest, pre-process, and convert to DNG, Adobe Camera Raw to post-process as DNG, and then Milio or Peak 2, for instance, to manage the files. There's no right or wrong way of doing things, and convenience, cost, and quality control will all play a part in the option you choose. Personally speaking, I use Adobe Lightroom alongside DxO PureRAW and PhotoLab. I use Lightroom to import and rate my shots, selecting the keepers that I want to spend some more time on. Then I go back to the original RAW for my chosen selection, pre-processing DxO, and then finesse in either Lightroom or PhotoLab. That way, I get the best of both worlds, the convenience of Lightroom's asset management and the power of DxO's pre-processing. Since images pre-processed into DNG files by PureRAW 4 are 2 to 3 times the size of the original RAW file, it makes sense to only lavish this extra attention on just the best shots. The upgrade from DxO PureRAW 3 to 4 is a strong one, unless you're a Fuji user who has X-Trans RAW files. If you're something of a perfectionist who wants to eke out every last grain of quality from your RAW files, then it's a must-have. With the new XD2 algorithm, it has, as far as I'm concerned, the best denoising tool on the market. Almost supernatural denoising capabilities combined with excellent detail retention. It was disappointing not to have X-Trans compatibility in this first PureRAW 4 release though, and will mean that Fuji users have far less motivation to upgrade than users of other camera platforms. The problem that DxO have is that everyone else is catching up now, and I suspect that for many people the increasingly powerful enhanced tool in Lightroom, combined with its now excellent demosaicing capabilities, will be more than good enough for most photographers. DxO PureRAW 4 costs €119, that's about $130, or you can upgrade for €79, which is about $85. As always, I strongly suggest you download the trial version of the software and put it through its paces on your photographs. And that will do us for this look at DxO PureRAW 4. Do you use a RAW pre-processor, or are you happy with the all-in-one Lightroom style approach? Please let me know in the comments section below. If you got value from this content, please do give it a like and consider subscribing for more photo, video, and drone-related content from me. Till the next time, guys. Ta-ta.